What is up guys, TGA19 here, bringing you a review today of Uncharted 3 Drake's Deception for the PlayStation 4 as part of the Nathan Drake collection. Now of course this will be the last game in the series that I will review, the collection obviously because it's the last one. However, I will be doing a review of all the games and like the collection itself bundled into one. So keep your eyes up for that video because it will definitely be coming soon. And if you want that video, please let me know by liking this video and just leaving a comment say that you would like that video, and I'll try and get it up as quickly as possible. So now with Drake's Deception, I will say for a starter that I do think that this game gets way too much flack, because in my opinion I honestly think that this game is quite decent, and I don't really see why everyone's so hyped up, like saying Among Thieves is the best. Like in terms of quality wise, I would definitely say that Among Thieves is better. I mean, I would still, like, both of these games in my opinion are both 10 out of 10s, because Among Thieves is a great game, Drake's Deception is a great game. I think I just prefer like some bits of a game, one game to the other for the opposite reasons. Like I prefer Uncharted 2 for its quality, but I prefer Uncharted 3 for the improvements it brings in, and then also like how it finishes off. The gameplay aspects that were brought into 2, it finishes them off so well in 3. That's what I prefer this game for. Like, I find Uncharted 2 more fun to watch, but I find 3 more fun to play, if you understand what I mean by that. So now we're going to move on to the story. So of course the story takes place 2 years after the events of Among Thieves. Drake is now on the quest to find the lost city of the Atlantis of the Sands, which T.E. Lawrence tried to find. And also Sir Francis Drake. It's kind of similar to Drake's Fortune, I guess, because it involves Sir Francis Drake. But yeah, he's trying to find the lost city, and it involves that story. A lot of the characters from Uncharted 2 appear, even Chloe does, even though her role in the story isn't as big. But yeah, all the characters you remember from Uncharted 2, of course, are back in this game, which is something I like. I mean, the characters are always a good thing, and I really do like this. And the story really does test the characters at some points, and really just does test their moral standings of how far they're willing to go with with Nate on this adventure. And I do think it's a very, very good story for how deeply emotional it is compared to the other ones. Now of course I don't want to give too much away about the story, because it's a story I want everyone to find out for themselves. I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but I will say that the story is a lot, it's a bit confusing at times. It's definitely like got the most heaviest of plot points at times in the Uncharted series, so you can definitely say that for sure. I would also say that there are quite a few plot holes in the story itself. There are definitely some noticeable ones. I mean there are some here, and they're quite obvious. Some maybe not as obvious, and you may not catch up on them the first few times you see them. But I still didn't find them very distracting, to be honest with you, so it wasn't a major concern for me. So it didn't put me, how you say, out of the experience of the game, but it was still noticeable at times. So in terms of the story itself, it's very personal, the most personal story in the entire series. It focuses a lot on Drake's relationship with Sully, how he met him, and it really goes through the themes of how long that Drake can continue being a fortune hunter for, because at some time in his life he's going to have to accept that he can't keep on doing it. And this game's really starts to drive in that question, especially with Elena's character, who while isn't in this story very much, she has quite an important role of addressing that plot line, which is a plot line that I really did kind of enjoy. It's a shame that she isn't in the game that often much, but I understand why, because of course she was filming Haven at the time of Uncharted 3's release, so of course she wasn't in it very much. But I liked her role, Elena's role in the game, very well. And Drake, discovering Drake and Sully's past, how they met Marlowe, who was of course the main villain, and all that stuff. Just overall a very good story, and I'm very happy with what they did. Don't think it's as good as Uncharted 1's in terms of overall, but if I were to compare it to Uncharted 2's, I would probably say it's on par, because it does what Uncharted 2 did wrong with its story right, and it does wrong with what Uncharted 2's story got right, if you understand what I mean. I mean, it's probably better if I explain this in the comments of the description, so I'll probably do that, to be honest with you, rather than try to explain it here, because otherwise this review will go on for way too long. So now we move on to the presentation, and of course, Uncharted 3 is the most recent game in the series, so of course it looks the best. 1080p resolution, looks very, very nice in game. I mean, it does look as good as some PS4 games. It's definitely nowhere near the best looking, but it's still got some pretty decent graphics when you consider, the fact that this game is 4 years old. And, most games that have come out for the PlayStation 4 now have as good a graphics as this have been out for like half the time, which is pretty incredible. I mean, it only makes me think of how beautiful Uncharted 4 is going to be when I get my hands on it in March. So yeah, that just makes me more pumped for that. I mean, the presentation's very, very good. The movements are a lot more realistic. It just in general, just looks a lot more realistic than the previous games, but that's expected considering it's the most recent as well. Of course, you have the 60 frames per second now. Definitely improves the gameplay, which we'll get onto in a bit. It just adds a lot to the presentation as well. Just gives it a very nice feel, and I really do enjoy that. I mean, any game that has 60 frames per second, I'll always take as an added bonus. I always, though, do say to myself that I prioritize, resolution over frame rate, and I still stick by that. But you aren't going to change that. It's still a great game, and presentation-wise, it still looks very, very good, even to this day, and I definitely have no complaints in that department. So now we move on to the gameplay aspects. Now, Uncharted 3 definitely has the biggest, involvement, or like tries to encourage stealth the most out of the entire series. And probably the one thing I loved with this game in terms of its gameplay is just the amount of options it brings to gameplay. Levels felt a lot more vertical. There was a lot more opportunities for stealth. And what I personally loved the most about Uncharted 3, level design, was that how you could actually, complete areas, using stealth, not killing anyone, and not even calling reinforcements. When first, it makes the game feel so much more satisfying, and it gives you that extra bit more of a challenge. And that's what I felt was really bad with Uncharted 2, because if you managed to defeat an entire area with enemies, the AI would then, the game would just send out AI who automatically knew your location, and you wouldn't be able to stealth take them down. I found that a bit of a bad thing in Uncharted 2, but Uncharted 3, that issue's completely fixed, and I love the emphasis on stuff. It's very good. I mean, the gun combat's even better. Like I said in the Uncharted 2 review, I feel like the gun sounds in Uncharted 3 are just so much more realistic, and they just sound a lot better. Like, I don't know why, but Uncharted 2 really, really bugged me with the amount of times that I would fire a gun and it sounded so fake. It was ridiculous. I mean, that's just my opinion. Some people prefer the sound in 2. I just prefer the sound in 3. It just sounds a lot better. The gunplay feels a lot better as well. Of course, melee combat's been heavily improved, even introducing better countering systems. I can tell that this game is definitely influenced in some ways, by Batman Arkham City's combat, but that's not a bad thing, because the game's combat feels a lot more organic and a lot fresher, and it just feels a bit more fun to use, to just go past a load of enemies using the combat. It just feels so much more fun and satisfying. I would definitely say for gameplay, this is definitely the best in the series. It's just so fun to play and just so epic to use. And I mean, I just love the stealth in this game, because after being such a big fan of the Metal Gear Solid series, I'm automatically drawn towards stealth, and I will use stealth for every opportunity I can, and that's why I love this game, because I just love using stealth on it. With that, of course, we now move on to what I would call the value of the game. Of course, the Uncharted 3, like all the other 2 games, of course, comes with 2 new difficulty modes. You have Explorer mode, which is for people who just want to free roam around the game, not really have challenging combat at all. Or you have Brutal, which I actually tried on Uncharted 3, and to be honest with you, it's one of the most difficult game modes I've played in my entire life. I mean, it's got nothing on Call of Duty's realistic mode, but I mean, Jesus Christ, Brutal is pretty tough, to be honest with you. I mean, Crushing you can find easy at times, but on Brutal, man, I mean, that I remember the amount of times I was literally raging when playing on Brutal. So yeah, I only recommend playing on Brutal if you are an absolute sweaty Uncharted player. But you can definitely get satisfaction out of completing that. Of course, you've got the new trophies as well, which I'm not too concerned about. I've already got the platinum for Uncharted 3. So I definitely won't be attempting to get the additional trophies. I'll put, you know, platinum on screen now, just so you can see, you know, for proof that I have got it. And yeah, I might just pop Uncharted 2s on there as well, just, you know, because I forgot to mention in my previous one that I did platinum Uncharted 2 as well. I mean, that's not me just showing off. I think it's just like, I feel like when I've platinum the game, I'm in the best frame of mind to be able to review it, or at least that's how I feel. So now that all that's been said and done, I think that's pretty much it for the review, to be honest with you guys. I mean, there is the speed run mode, but to be honest with you, I only used it so I could get the platinum trophies, and it's not exactly something that I would, you know, recommend. I mean, it's fun to do. I mean, if you want to time yourself against your friends, that's a good thing, but I wouldn't say it's a big reason for why you would buy this game, but still there nevertheless. But that will wrap up this review very, very nicely. I mean, Uncharted 2, I mean, I gave it a 9.5 because even though I still think it's a great game, the problem I have with Uncharted 2 is that I found out there were so many gameplay flaws in it compared to 3 that I really just didn't enjoy it. However, Uncharted 3 still is my favourite in the series. I mean, like I said earlier on in the review, I don't think it's the best in terms of quality, but in terms of how much more option and variety it brings to the series, that's why I think, honestly, it's the better game in the series. I mean, people will argue that, you know, quality is better over option. I mean, in this game, I think it's only that the options are better because of how many you have, and I still think Uncharted 3 is a very, you know, good quality game, and for that reason I'm going to give Uncharted 3 a 10 out of 10 because, to be honest with you, Uncharted 3, I feel like if Uncharted 2 had released after Uncharted 3, we'd all be slating Uncharted 2. That's what I feel, at least. And then this game gets way too much stick. It's such a great game, and I do think this deserves more praise than it does from the amount of hate from Uncharted fans. But that's it for my video today. I hope you enjoyed my review on Uncharted 3 Drake's Deception. Please let me know in the comment section what you thought of this game, and also tell me what you think about these review videos so I can get some impressions. But with that being said, I'd like to thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you again next time.